Spoiler alert, which means read the book. I'm not joking. Gage Hoffman, Matt Christensen, Literature 210, Introduction to Literature, 31 March 2017. Life of Pi, Death of Tiger, an analysis of Chapter 54. Life of Pi. It is a book very well reviewed under most circumstances and can be recommended to absolutely anyone that could read. This book will leave you in awe, having you question and criticize things you may have never thought of. Matt Christensen, a South Dakota composition and literature teacher, says that absolutely everything Yann Martel has written was intentional, that nothing in it was written as filler. It truly appears this way, and you will understand if you will read or have read Life of Pi. Whether the story is allegorical or simply fiction is up for interpretation, and that is why so many people love it. Though it would not be anything short of fun, this video is not a review of Life of Pi. There's exactly 100 chapters in Martel's book, and any of the 100 could be criticized and analyzed in massive depth. The analysis in this video will be focused on Chapter 54, the 6 plans to end Richard Parker. Slight explanation. Pai Patel, the main character, lived in India with his parents. As a child, he was introduced to 3 different religions: Hinduism, Christianity, and Islam. Thusly, there are many allusions to religion in Pai's thoughts, and he clashes often with his atheistic father. Not really a big deal. Yeah, we've all been there. Anyway, his family owns a zoo in Pondicherry, and thusly they all gain extensive knowledge of animals. For example, in Chapter 13, Pai goes about saying, "So you see, if you fall into a lion's pit, the reason the lion will tear you to pieces is not because it's hungry. Be assured, zoo animals are amply fed, or because it's bloodthirsty, but because you've invaded its territory." It goes without saying, Pai gets animals. Though unfortunately he did not understand the typical dangers of animals until his father threw a goat into the tiger pen to teach him a lesson about being careful about animals. The tiger's name? Richard Parker. His father also goes and shows how every other animal is dangerous as well, but Richard Parker is important. He was introduced first, and he will come up later. Ask yourself, why would Martel make Richard Parker a tiger? Why not a boar, a bear, or a duck? Maybe because of how incredibly dangerous and agile they can be. Maybe what a classmate, Clemenson, said, the 3 colors of a tiger are white, orange, and black. Christianity, Hinduism, and Islam. Clemenson blows my mind, dude. Martel himself actually says in an interview,
the tiger was actually late in the process. Remember I said to an earlier question that my characters kind of come last? So I wanted this boy in a lifeboat with something incongruous. And so very initially, Richard Parker was going to be an elephant. So you'd have this lifeboat, this boy, this thin little boy, this elephant. But the problem, I didn't like that ultimately because it was too funny in my mind. You can see this big lifeboat being tilted over this enormous elephant, this little boy. It was too sort of funny an idea. And humor is a good thing in telling a story, but you don't want to keep on hitting the same note. And elephants kind of look funny. We tend to like elephants. We don't see how dangerous they are. We think of Dumbo. You hear of elephants in circuses. We tend to make it sort of like bears. We think of bears as being like Winnie the Poohs. In fact, they're incredibly dangerous animals, bears. So people aren't necessarily afraid of elephants, and they look kind of funny. So that didn't quite fit the bill. So I needed another Indian elephant, another Indian animal. So for the longest time, I was going to choose a rhinoceros. Don't forget, I needed an animal that was present in India. And there's the Indian rhinoceros. And I was actually very happy with the rhinoceros because the rhinoceros is kind of a strange animal. It's dangerous, we know that. But the one problem ultimately for me was that rhinoceroses are herbivores. They only eat grass. How do you have a herbivore survive in the Atlantic, in the Pacific, in an ocean? So I realized, and I should have realized right from the start, I needed a carnivore. So I went straight away for the biggest, largest, most dangerous carnivore. So the largest carnivore on Earth would be the grizzly bear, but tiger's pretty dangerous too. So I went for the largest carnivore in India, and that's obviously the tiger. And initially I wasn't happy with that choice because tigers are very well known. See, what I liked about rhinoceroses is everyone knows what rhinoceros is, but I bet you if I asked your class, what rhinoceros has 1 horn, which has 2, where does a rhinoceros live, what are its habits, does it live in a group or is it a solitary animal? Most of you wouldn't know. So you know the animal, but you don't know much about it. So that's very useful for a writer because then I could sort of weave all kinds of things about it. Whereas a tiger is very well known. People know about tigers. So I thought initially it was too well known an animal. But finally I just said, oh, whatever. I'll try to make it work. And fine, it seems to have worked out.
However it may have been chosen, it was chosen. Therefore, the stipulation placed before Pi stands as it must. Pi's family decides to leave India for America. By boat, of course, because they wish to sell some of the animals. Pi's paradigm shift happens as suddenly as this next sentence. The ship sinks, and Pi finds himself on a lifeboat with a zebra, a hyena, an orangutan, and a tiger named Richard Parker. Remember him? The hyena kills the zebra, then the orangutan. Pi finds all the supplies on the boat and creates a secondary raft through bricolage for reasons quite obvious. With Pi gone, Richard Parker now kills the hyena. It is there that Pi devises a plan to kill Richard Parker. You have now been caught up to speed.